Truth number one, homosexuality is a sin. God says you're not gay, and I say you're not gay.
Three Things We Should Talk About is a documentary style film, which opens with these sermons discussing homosexuality as the it's not conforming to the Christian way. And then it gives you these facts about how suicide is 5 times more likely within the LGBTQIA community. And it's more likely because they're more likely to hate themselves for being gay because of the things being taught to them growing up in the church structure. You're being taught that you are not loved, that you are doomed. And then you at the same time cannot help your urges. So it can feel very much like I don't have a place. Repressing these sexual urges or encounters happen because there's feelings of guilt. And then you even have, in some cases, gay therapy, which they touched on, or pastors trying to pray away these urges. And when you even have these boundaries in place and it still doesn't work, what are you left feeling? Like, what do you turn to in that moment? You can't turn to religion, especially if your church structure is very strict on, those teachings, and you feel like the things you tried isn't working, then your obvious choice at the moment would feel like ending it all, which is just a sad, unfortunate thing to think about. You have someone who brings a human voice to this as his own personal experience, and inevitably he ended up renouncing his faith because of his mental health struggles, trying to stay within the limitations that his faith caused. And in the renouncing of it is when he finally felt free. He felt free from the limitations. He felt free to explore himself. And I think it's a very interesting title because it's like, some churches are very adamant about it, but then you have some churches who just don't talk about it. And, it's because they have people within their church community who are clearly homosexual. So it just is easier to just stay in this place of, we're just going to pass over certain scriptures. Every pastor kind of presents it in a different way, but it is still sort of that overriding thing where, can I be religious but still believe that God created everybody the way he created them, which is what I believe. But then, you have people who will argue down that scripture says something different. So it's just one of those things that's almost easier to not talk about it because nobody really wins.
Hey, I'm commenting on the short film, Things We Shouldn't Talk About. What a powerful testimony. I thought that this was just an amazing recounting of the intersection between, a religious upbringing and coming to grips with one's sexuality and sort of the rejection that they've felt as a result of that, religious upbringing. I thought that this was a really fantastic example to use. The fact that your subject came from this background of, one of those really intense kind of hate-filled churches, made the testimony, I think, all the more powerful, considering everything that he had to go through in order to, reach a point where he was happy and accepted himself. I really only had a couple suggestions. Number one, when you have the printed text at the beginning, there are a couple instances where it's sort of simultaneously playing on screen while that pastor is talking, and it makes it really hard to both read everything and pay attention to what he's saying. I think that if you just give that a little bit more room to breathe, it'll be easier to follow at the outset. The second thing is, I would just love to see you not give that pastor the last word. I'd rather see the last word come from the subject of your film.
This film is called Things We Shouldn't Talk About. Wow, what a powerful short. A gay man raised in a Christian household finally breaks away from the church and finds liberation. His story is so heartfelt, and the juxtaposition between the video clips of the pastor's sermons about homosexuality and his experience was so clever. I love the gentle piano soundtrack under his story. It worked well. The film also gives some truly sobering statistics about suicide in the LGBT community, especially from those from religious families. What an honest, heartfelt film. Great job.
Things We Shouldn't Talk About does a very good job of showing these, taboo subjects within a certain community that, suppresses these people. And I think it does a really good job of exploring this guy's, inner turmoil and how he felt. And I think it's, very well done in that respect.
Things We Shouldn't Talk About was really eye-opening, just seeing how much homophobia is in the church and how that really, really affects those, LGBTQ community who grew up in the church, and just seeing those statistics on the screen about suicide rates within that community was devastating to see and really powerful. So the use of those statistics was very effective in this film. I thought that the testimony in this film was really great. It was personal, it was honest. You really saw from a first, he showed you a first-hand account of his experience and what he went through. And just seeing the headlines and hearing those sound bites of actual people saying such terrible things about gay people and people in the LGBTQ community. It was all very effective, although, hard to watch. Very powerful to bring awareness to what is happening within the church and to those people that the church is affecting with their words. I thought this was a really powerful film, and I did enjoy it.
We're faced with these harsh truths that suicide was the second lead cause of death in 2020. Right off the bat, this dives how this impacted the LGBTQ community, where they have these religious ties, and it had an ultimate heavy impact on their journeys of acceptance of who they were. You're listed as the worst of the worst and stuck in a category of common criminals, pedophiles, things of that nature. This dives into the punishment of oneself, pure rejection of who they are at their core, diving into the anxiety, the paranoia, the pure rejection, the sleepless suffering as we as individuals go out of our way to punish ourselves, being mentally sick to the point you're sick physically, hanging on to dear life for who we're told to be versus who we actually are, and coming to terms with that, putting fear into someone, making them feel like they're a disease is a horrible thing, and convincing if you're homosexual, saying that you're going to be succumbed to becoming a cannibal is straight up propaganda. And this divides the relationship between homosexuality and religion, and how to overcome these challenges, honestly, to the dark side of spirituality that exists in our world.